Hello viewers, welcome back again to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing flowcharts, a flowchart that calculates the sum of squares given input of numbers. Before we get deep dive into solving this problem, it's a good practice for us to understand what a flowchart is. A flowchart is simply a graphical representation or diagram that depicts the sequence of steps or actions in a process or algorithm. It uses various symbols, shapes, and arrows to illustrate the flow of control and decision points within the process. Flowcharts are widely used in various fields, including computer programming, business process analysis, system design, and problem solving. They provide a visual representation of a process, making it easier to understand, analyze, and communicate. Here are some key elements commonly used in flowcharts. Start or end. It represents the beginning and end points of the process. It is typically depicted with a rounded rectangle or oval shape. Process or action. It presents a specific action or task performed within the process. It is usually depicted with a rectangular shape. Decision or condition represents a decision point where the process flow branches based on a condition or criteria. It is depicted with a diamond shape. The flow diverges based on different conditions, and the branches are labeled with yes or no or other appropriate labels. Input or output represents input or output actions within the process. It is depicted with a parallelogram shape. Connector or arrow represent the flow of control from one step to another. It is used to connect different symbols and indicate the direction of the process flow. Flowcharts provide a visual representation that allows for easy comprehension and analysis of complex process. They aid in identifying bottlenecks, optimizing workflows, troubleshooting, and documenting process for future reference. For instance, for example, you are a manager of a production company. You want to produce burger. The first thing that will come to your mind is how to source for the raw material. You source for the raw material, then you hire laborers, skilled, semi, or unskilled laborers. Then you get the machinery that you need. The laborers man the machinery and use the machines to process the raw materials into semi finished goods, then finished goods. Then that will be ready for consumption or for sale. So this is just a simple algorithm. The flowchart is now used. It's a diagrammatical representation of this process we just illustrated. We use the flowchart as a guide, as a diagrammatical guide, as a graphical guide to understand the step-by-step process involved in this production. Another example, we want to build a house. The first thing that will come to our mind is getting a surveyor that will survey the land. Having done that, the next thing that comes to our mind again is to get an architecture that will give us the plan. We'll have the plan, we'll go ahead and get the quotations, we'll get the laborers, we'll get the materials we need, we lay the foundation, we erect the building, we roof the building. So you can see, this is just an algorithm, which is a step-by-step approach and complete a task. But you can see that this process can be illustrated clearly or can be visualized using a flowchart. So flowcharts aim at helping us to visualize a sequential process or sequential steps to accomplish a particular task. flowchart can be used anywhere. It's not limited. It can be used in various field of endeavors, business, computer programming, and the rest of it. So we're going to demonstrate more of these concepts, especially the flowchart diagram, while we are solving the task. Here is the flowchart that calculates the sum of squares of a given input of numbers. We're going to illustrate this step by step for easy comprehension. So when you see any process, you can easily analyze it with a flowchart. Let's start. The first oval shape here represents a start of the process. This line here, the straight line here, the straight line here indicates the connector that connects one process to the next process. This box represents input or output. This box represents inputs. So we just input something. We can use this to represent action or a process. We can use this to represent a predefined process. We can use this to represent input, as I earlier mentioned. We can use this to represent actions or process, as I previously mentioned. We can use this to represent decision. Now, if something, let's assume, are you going to church today? Yes, I will. Okay, if you will, go with the Bible. If you are not going, keep the Bible. So it's just telling us decision process. We label it yes or no. If it's happening, yes. If it's not happening, no. So that's what it means. So let me just include. Let me include the. Sorry. So let's go ahead. So here. So here represents. This diagram here represents the to display the output of the final result, while here represent termination of the process. So we can just use it to reset the flow, the workflow of the process. So having known this, let's get deep dive into understanding how this process actually works. So here we start the process here, then we'll go ahead and read input from users. So this input could actually be anything. So we are actually reading numbers that want to calculate the sum of squares. We're actually reading any number from the input. Ask the input, enter any number with your keyboard. So the number can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, anything. Now we'll go ahead. We create a variable called sum of squares. We initialize it to 0, or we assign 0 to the sum of squares. So this means that the sum of squares should have no value, but can only assume the computed value for the squares, which is our final output for the sum of squares after calculating the squares. So we'll go ahead, go to the next step. We'll repeat these steps for any number, or for each input we want to recognize in the system. Now, having done that, we'll go to the next step here. So here we read another number from the user. When we read the number from the user, here we go again, we calculate, we create a variable called square. For instance, we calculate the square for each number. So let's say we have two various numbers. Let's say we have num here represent number. Let's say we have 2, we have 3. For instance, it could be 4, it could be 5, any numbers. Now here we simply, what we simply do here, we say 2 here raised to the power of 2 give us 2 times 2. Here 3 times 3, here 4 times 4. So simply say 2 times 2, say n equals to 2 times 2, n equals to 3 times 3. Then we can say n equals to 4 times 4. So this means get the number for each value, multiply it by itself to get the square of the number. Then, having done that, go ahead and add the numbers together, the squares of the numbers together. For instance, you have here we have 2 by 2, 2 times 2, it gave us 4, and here 3 times 3, it gave us 9. So what we'll do, we say 4 plus 9, it gives us 13. So the sum of squares equals to 13. So that's what it means. So having done that, you go down again. Then we check if the input process are well met, if there are no errors. If there are no errors, just go ahead and print the final results of the sum of squares. If there are errors, just repeat these steps from the starting till the end. But there is a special technique we use in handling these errors. The error could be typo in the code or unwell defined process. But there's a way we can actually boycott this exception. We can actually define a process that actually help us to handle this assumption. But that is for the sake of this, that's going to be where we are doing coding. But this is an algorithm that just shows us the stage-by-stage process. So here, after printing the final results, if all things be equal, code are working fine, just go ahead and stop the process. So hello folks, we have ended up solving the ALS problem and understanding what flowcharts is all about. So now you can solve any flowcharts, any problem related to flowchart. Thank you and stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel. This encourages me to do more. Thanks and stay tuned.